You often hear those horror stories about women whose babies get stolen from them out of their womb, or maybe you watched a Lifetime movie, but I experienced this in real time. I was pregnant with my first child, and around 28 weeks, my mother, whom you all know now is a dark worker and was a narcissistic parent, told me that she wanted to check me and that because she was a nurse that she checked to see how everything was going to make sure I was okay. She made me bend over on the bed and she checked me with her fingers. And that same day, I went into early labor. I stayed in labor for about 3 days. It was a Sunday and I delivered on Wednesday. The reason behind me delivering, they said, was because of bacteria, but they couldn't tell me what kind of bacteria it was, and they were curious to know how that got there as far as it did. Before giving birth, I had such a happy pregnancy. I did have a baby shower. However, the baby shower wasn't centered around me. My baby shower was centered around my birth mother. She made it like a party for herself, even having fun and sitting on people's laps while my father was inside. I decided that during this time, I was going to look up names that fit what I felt would be perfect. And the first thing that came to mind was looking up something Japanese. And I know you're probably wondering why you Caribbean, why you looking for something Japanese, Ray-Tay-Tay. But I had a very strong influence of anime at the time, and his birth dad was also German, Japanese, and black. So I figured why not, use kanji. I named him Isao Ekio. And Isao Ekio means a strong man deserving of merit and reward. And I felt like that was a name that suited him more than well because it was my first child, and despite me going through that labor for 3 days, I knew that he was going to survive, and a child's name is what they'll live. When I pushed him out, he was still inside of his amniotic sac, in his veil, if you will. I knew then, even at 28 weeks, watching them burst his sac as it came out, and he cried and he looked at me, that he was going to fit his name to the T. They brought him to the NICU, and I had to stay in the hospital for a week. I delivered at Grady. And while there, they let me go see him. He was placed in an incubator, and he was attached to a lot of different type of monitors and tubes because at 28 weeks, you're not supposed to live. For weeks, I had a journal writing down every bit of development that he had, everything that I planned on doing, everything that I wanted him to see when he got older, so he can see that even though they said he wasn't going to make it because of me delivering so early, that he did, and that he was that strong man deserving of merit and reward. I delivered him June 19th. And he didn't come home until October, about a week before my birthday, which fit perfectly for me. I was so happy being able to put different clothes on him. I would consistently go to the NICU every week, sometimes spending nights on the floor in the mothering unit for 2 or 3 nights, just pumping milk and bringing it to him, talking to him, sharing how much I loved him, singing to him in the NICU, so much so that he even started to talk, and a nurse was like, "What was that?" And I was like, "That was my baby." And she was like, "Oh my gosh." And I let her know singing in faith is what's going to bring my child through. If you guys followed me on IG before, well, it's still up, honestly. If you guys follow me on IG, you'll see the videos of him actually talking back in the video while he's in the NICU. And he wasn't even 30 weeks yet. So I was very, very proud of that, to say the least. Every moment that I was being proud, I noticed was a moment for my birth mother to try to bring me down. She first started with telling me a lie that his birth dad came and he was dirty and he came with some girl and they smelled like drugs. And at the time, me and his birth father weren't talking, so I was like, "You're not allowed to come anymore." So I took him off the list. Shortly after that, my baby finally came home. And the biggest thing about a mother and their child is that you don't want to be separated from your child. And I definitely didn't want to be separated from him. I didn't want anyone to watch him, to hold him, to touch him, because he was my first child. Like, that was mine. That was me. That was literally me in another human form. Like, and that's one of the most beautiful things I could have ever asked for. I even developed an ankh-shaped birthmark on my leg after giving birth to him. I said I wasn't going to cry while I do this, so I'm not going to cry, because there's a lesson in this for someone who's probably going through it, or who is currently suffering from the pain of it. Long story short, I had nowhere to go. Of course, I didn't have a job. It wasn't like I was with the father, so I was staying at my parents' home. And every day, my mother would try to come and do something to upset me or push me out the house. It came a time one day she walked in and she looked at me and she said, "I'm going to take your baby from you." And I looked at her and I said, "Why would you say that?" And she walked out laughing. I tried not to think too much of it because she had already been being abusive, so I figured she was just trying to be mean. But at the time, I wish I did think more heavily about it. A few weeks later, DFACS came to our house, and they came in and they were saying that they got a report that I'm not taking care of my child. Nothing was but farther from the truth. So when they investigated and they looked, they realized that I was. But while they were also investigating, they were looking at my mom's behavior. They noticed that she had locked me out of the fridge. They noticed that she had locked me out of the pantry. So essentially, no food for me to eat. The lady sat down with me and she told me that I needed to leave that home because it wasn't safe for me and my baby. I told her I don't have a job. I don't have anything. So where am I supposed to go? She said she didn't know, but that I needed to leave because it wasn't safe. So I left with a friend that I had met, well, a friend I thought at least, that I had met after I got in trouble for something. That's not the point of the story, but I had got in trouble, you guys. Everyone has something. And I decided to go be with her. So I packed up in my boyfriend's car and took my baby and we left. Shortly after that, I started looking for work. And a lot of you guys know that I do music, I write poetry. So I decided to go ahead and try to go sell my music. Lo and behold, unfortunately, while I was out, this girl decided to not only take my money, but also contact the people that I very much left and told them to come get my child. Now, for whatever reason she did that, I don't know. Because she got paid $600 to watch my son for the night. And she decided to take my money on top of more money that was stashed away in my closet because I had just got $5,000 off of the taxes. And she took that money and she ran with it. Taking my money and then sending my child back to the same people who abused me, who treated me poorly, who literally told me to my face they were going to take my child away from me. With that. So I know you're probably wondering what happened after that. Well, I returned, and when I returned back to the apartment, she put my stuff outside. And when I asked her how dare she do that, she said, you had DFACS coming here looking to seeing if you were living in a good space, and you know that I was doing scams with my family, blah, 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 blah. So I put you out and I sent your child back with your family. So because you didn't want to get in trouble, you didn't want to get found out, you put my child in jeopardy, even though I paid you $600 to watch my child for the night. Mind you, because my son was born early, he had hydrocephalus. So it wasn't like he was doing much. I left him while he was asleep. And I let her know that I'll be back in the morning. Because I wasn't going to be able to just come back in the middle of the night, especially who was taking me. Shortly after that, of course, I became homeless. So I'm living in Atlanta. Bouncing couch to couch, trying to figure out a way to not only get a job, but to get my baby back. I finally managed to move to another city, and I ended up moving to North Carolina. Established myself, and everything was good. I called my family and let them know, hey, I want my child back. I was told that I would never see my child or get my child back again, and they hung up the phone on me. Not before telling me that it was their child now. So I decided to get a lawyer. And I told the lawyer everything that was going on, how everything was happening, and what I needed help with. They told me it wasn't the first time that they dealt with this, that this is something that they've seen before, and they were willing to help me. But the case was going to cost me $4,000. $4,000 that I did not have. Mind you, I had just turned 22 years old. I didn't have $4,000 laying around. I literally just got out of being homeless. So I had to figure out a way to fight. I was dating someone at the time, and they said that they would be willing to help me. So I contacted again and let them know that I'm going to be coming there to get my child. because it's my child. They told me they were going to call the police on me and say whatever that they wanted to say so that I could go away and not get my child back. Now, this was 2014, 2015. Almost 10 years later now, and I said I wasn't going to cry because I'm not. Almost 10 years later now, I have had another child. I'm living, I'm thriving. But the thought of Isao Akio still rose through my mind because that was my first child, my firstborn. And I call and I say, I want my child back. Like, y'all have had enough. Y'all have done enough. At this point, I'm even pleading with the enemy to get my child back. And she said, I need to ask my dad. Now, I already knew that he was in on a lot of the stuff that she would do because he'd watch her beat the fuck out of me. He'd watch her beat the shit out of me. He's watched her stomp me out in the kitchen. He sat there on the steps with his hands just watching. They've even beat me together, punching me in my chest, throwing liquor bottles at my head. I survived all of that. But the one thing they knew that would hurt me more than anything was taking away my firstborn child. And that's what they did. And once I was told that, I went ahead and I started calling down the office in Georgia to figure out how to get my child back. And DFAX was like, we've been waiting for you. We sent mail to you. And I said, well, I've never received it. And they let me know that they were sending mail to that house because apparently they were still telling them that I lived there. I just didn't want to take care of my child. Meanwhile, not knowing that I had got kicked out of that home how many times and was pretty much homeless and was outside until I managed to survive and make a way for myself. So I let them know that. And the lady laughed and said, I figured something was going on because of how weird they were being. But that I would have to go to a superior court to fight them because they went and told them that they had that child. How? When I pushed that baby out. But that's what happens when you deal with not only dark workers, but people who are narcissistic and jealous. They will go to any means, especially her, do any documents, formulate and forge any documents that they possibly could. Long story short, my child that was getting healthy in the NICU turned out to stop getting healthy as soon as he ended up in their care. He doesn't speak. He doesn't really know his name. He doesn't know me. And the toughest part about it is that I know if he would have been with me, he would have been perfectly fine. Because my healing was enough to get him out of that NICU. My healing was enough to have him speaking and singing along with me before he was even ready to leave the NICU. Hell, the breast milk that I was pumping was so golden that they asked me to feed other babies in the NICU because I was the only mother showing up. And I said I wasn't going to cry. And it's not because crying is weakness, but it's because I've shed enough tears and my tears are like hot coals on my enemy's head. So, instead of me crying in this video, I'm coming here to let y'all know, one, I've been through the worst. And I'm not coming here for pity. I'm coming here to show someone else who is going through that same situation, who's fighting with someone trying to steal their child, who's fighting with someone who's constantly abusing them, who's fighting with someone who treats them poorly. I need you to know that it don't motherfucking matter what they do. No matter how hard they try. You keep fighting, you keep shining your light. And like I said, I wasn't going to, so I cut it off because I'm not going to cry. I'm here for y'all. I'm not going to do that. That's not me. I'm not Tyrese. You understand what I'm saying? No funny shit, but no matter what they do, no matter how hard they try, no matter how many lies they tell people, don't give up. Never stop fighting. Never stop telling the truth. And even if you can't get back what was taken from you, at least you can make them pay. When you talk the truth, you shame evil. When you shine lights in darkness, you make them scatter. So I know I may not ever be able to get Isao Akio back again. And I've made peace with that. Unfortunately, it's been 12 years. I had to. I still cry. It still hurts me. It was to a point where I thought he was dead and I'll never see him again. But what I will say is this. Now, this video here, where I'm speaking to y'all, is what's going to be shining light in the darkness. And I hope whoever watches this, who is experiencing the same thing, because I wanted these videos to find people who have been through what I've been through, whether it be less painful or unfortunately more. I want y'all to know that they don't prosper when we fight back. They don't prosper when we open our mouths and tell the truth. They don't prosper when we expose the darkness that they are. So no matter how many lies they tell, how many people they go to and say, oh, they were doing this, they were doing that, they were doing this. Whoever believed them, they're fucking stupid for doing it. Because if it was supposed to be today where we'd be judged, every last one would go down in shame. Keep that in mind whenever someone does something to you and they lie to other people about what they did and the part that they played. Talk the truth. It won't just set you free. It will put those motherfuckers in purgatory. I love y'all. As always, feeling the heart.